Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much. Our next guest is beloved, whether he's Killgrave on Jessica Jones, Alec Hardy on Broadchurch, Scrooge McDuck on DuckTales, or Doctor Who. David Tennant always finds the right notes. In the new show, Camping, created by Lena Dunham and Jenni Konner, Tennant gets to play something we rarely get to see him play. Kind of meek. Let's take a look.
Hi, checking in. It's Walt's 45th birthday soiree.
Cheers. This place has its own magic. I think you're gonna love it. You smell nice.
Okay.
This is such a great spread.
You want a wiener? Watch your fingers, honey. Ew.
It's nice to get away and unplug.
Guys, eyes on me! I am the only certified lifeguard present, so please keep an eye on me.
This place is just so relaxing. Time to get our buns in gear for our fossil hunt.
She always has a plan, my catty.
Today we have birds of prey watching. Woo!
It's nice to get a break from the group, right?
Honestly, I just need a drink.
We're doing whatever the F we want.
I love the mountains. I love the rolling.
Kathryn, why's your face so tight? Did you put on a night cream?
Boom-de-yada, 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 boom-de-yada. I love
What's her diagnosis?
She's mentally quite sound.
F you!
I love the flowers.
The weird thing about life, you can feel fine, but also know that you're a ticking time bomb.
Where are we? Why do you have to be so controlling about everything? Take that! Take that! Take that!
I just want to say, I'm now ready to forgive all of you.
Boom-de-yada, boom-de-yada.
David Tennant, everybody!
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
Thanks so much for being here.
It's always a great pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a great pleasure to watch your work. It's always wonderful, and this is a completely different performance than I think we've gotten to see you do.
Yeah, he is. Yes, he's quite. He's. It's all about the hat, really. Once I found the
Fishing,
hat.
and the when you go fishing and you're wearing that dad fishing outfit.
Yeah. It all just slotted into place, really.
How did they present this character to you?
They just sent me a script, and they're a lovely couple. I mean, they're not a couple who are at the optimum point in their relationship. It's a bit strained. Things have been tough, but I think you've got Walt. He really loves his wife. It's just that she doesn't seem to like him very much at the moment.
She doesn't seem to like herself or anybody.
Well, exactly. There's the problem, yes. And life has been difficult for them for the last few years. But it's his birthday, and he's full of optimism that this camping trip is going to be fun and that it'll blow away all the cobwebs, and maybe he might get laid if he's really lucky.
He really wants to get laid.
Really, it's been a really long time for Walt, yeah.
I feel like often you are cast as larger-than-life characters, right? Where you, when they're fairly performative, like the essence of their character is they are somewhat performative. And something like this is slightly stripped down, slightly very quiet, pretty reserved. Was that something that you are used to playing, or you know how to play right away?
No, it's not something that I often get asked to do, but it's possibly closer to me in a way. I do feel like I spend a lot of time playing characters where I have to bring confidence and I have to bring swagger, and they're not something that I really carry around with me in life particularly.
You're not a naturally confident swaggerous
I
person?
don't know that I am, no. So there's lots of Walt's sort of insecurity and naff dadness about him that I can identify with very readily.
I feel like you are a naturally energetic performer, though, and because you are limiting some of that energy, there is a repressed vibe that you.
Well, there's a lot of repression in Walter. Yeah, he's repressed.
He's ready to break.
He is ready to break. Yeah, but he's pushing a lot of stuff down over a long number of years, I think. So yeah, it's all ready. The pressure cooker is there. There are 8 episodes. You can imagine.
Oh, that's 8 episodes. I've seen the first half of them. I've seen 4. Yeah.
Right. Well, you're seeing him just starting to have moments of cracking.
She pushes him, though. I find that you really want to feel for her character, and there are moments where you do, but then there are moments where she is quite ugly.
As you guys say here, she's a lot.
Yeah.
There's no better way of describing that character, really. And Jen does it brilliantly, and it was a joy to play, really. But yes, she's hard to love. Walt manages it, you know.
Yeah, how do you handle those scenes where she acts out is maybe the wrong word? I think it's kind of lashes out to a fair degree, and your character still has to remain reserved and hold it together because he's not weak in a way where she's bossing him around or anything. There is a control that he still has over himself, but his strength comes in doing what he thinks is best for her while at the same time not cowering.
I think he understands that she's been through a lot, and that's, you know, I think that's what Lena and Jenni did brilliantly when they wrote these characters. Yes, she's a sort of, on one level, she's a sort of monster, you know, and there's a lot of comedy in that, but you also understand how she got there, and there's a lot of sympathy for that too. And you know, she's had a very complicated medical history in recent years, and she you know, she likes to talk about that at great length and tell everyone how much she suffers in life. But Walt understands that also she has been through a lot, and it has been difficult. And
you do go through things like that, you become obsessive.
Of course you do.
It's natural
yeah.
that people become absolutely obsessive when you go through, I think, medical issues that aren't very easily defined right away, and you have to do your own research. I've seen people like that, and it's like, I don't know how to talk to you about this, but this has clearly been your all-consuming thing in your life at this point.
Yeah, and Walt's lived that with her, and he's been holding her hand all the way through it, and he has a great deal of sympathy for everything that she's been through, so he understands how she's got there. And I mean, I think he sort of turns around and goes, hang on, where are we now? How do we get back from this? Can our relationship recover from this? But he's an optimist, and he loves her, and he understands, and he wants to do the best for her and everyone around. He's a helper. He wants everyone to have a nice time. He doesn't like conflict, and he wants us everyone. Okay, we're on this great camping trip. We're going to have 4 days out in the wilderness. There couldn't be a sweeter way to celebrate your 41st birthday. For him, it's all going to be fine after they've been on this camping trip.
In some way, he's kind of the only one that understands her as well, and or at least he feels that way. So there's a defensive aspect to it because he feels like nobody else understands her like he does.
Well, and that's how we all feel about family, I think, often, isn't it? You know, I can slag my family off. You don't get to, you know, and we're all proprietorial about that, and as we should be. So, yes, he can objectively see that she does terrible things to everyone around her, but he's never going to lose sight of the woman he loves within that, I suppose, and that makes him, I hope, ultimately sympathetic.
Yeah, I think it does. Were you surprised when they brought this to you, considering that, as you said, you mostly play very, very confident characters?
I was quite surprised, only that it's based on a British show, which I had nothing to do with. So it's quite weird to come to America to play an American in the American version of a show which has some of my mates in it from back home.
Did you have friends in?
Yeah, Steve Pemberton, who plays, well, he's not called Walt in the original, but the Walt character, I've known for years. And so he was, when it all got confirmed, he was the first person I got in touch with and went, I'm being the American you. I hope you're okay with that.
Is the in the British version, is the Jennifer Garner's character in that suffering from like chronic pain issues as well?
It's not quite as no, actually. That's a sort of motivation for everything that she's going through that Lena and Jenni have introduced. She's Vicky Pepperdine plays her in the original, and it's a glorious performance, but she's just a monster. She's just, yeah. It's tonally, it's a different show, I think. I think what Lena and Jenni tend towards is the kind of the psychology of interpersonal relationships. I think that's what fascinates them. I think that's what they write about brilliantly. I think the minutiae of detail in that is what fires them up, and why all these characters are so vivid. Julia Davis, who wrote the original, and they're clearly, you recognize the show, but it's a different world. Julia Davis writes fantastic, brilliant, bleak, almost kind of macabre comic worlds, so they're.
She's an actress too, Julia Davis, right?
Yeah. So she's in the original. She plays Juliet's part in the original, and she also wrote it and directed it. So I don't know. A lot of her stuff hasn't travelled here. She did a show called Nighty Night, which I guess you would have probably called her breakthrough role a few years back, which is this brilliant, dark, twisted comedy that is how we all know Julia back home, and she's now writing, producing, directing these wonderful pieces, which has inspired this.
Yeah, I always think that you guys are just a little bit better at that sort of really dark, bleak comedy over in the UK.
It's just different, isn't it? It's a different kind of thing. It's the difference between the UK version of The Office and the US version of The Office. You know, they're the same show, and they mine interest. You know, they're about the awkwardness of people who think too much of themselves. But one has a, you know, the US Office, obviously it ran for longer, so the characters have different trajectories. But there's the sort of shift in tone is similar, actually, I think.
I think when you, we'll just talk about it for a second. When you get to the U.S. office, you get a fear of going too dark and too mean at times, where I think the UK is so often never really afraid to go that far. I think some of my favorite stuff ever is like the early Mike Leigh films from the UK and those sort of class struggles and how he taps into that pathology. And I think we rarely get that in a
There's a lot of Mike Leigh echoes in both versions of this, actually. But I was often thinking about Mike Leigh in this, partly because at times we used improvisation in the scenes as well. You know, we had a script that we worked from, and we would always get what was on the page, but we would also do takes on the scenes where the cameras kept rolling and you know, what happened. And there's a lot of the actors, you know, someone like Brett Gelman or Bridget Everett, they come from comedy backgrounds, and they come from that kind of improvisational. You can just wind them up and let them go, which is sort of thrilling to be around, but also not my background, not my world at all. So I'm sort of trying to catch up and keep up with these sort of brilliant.
Kind of what Walt would be doing at the same, like Walt is,
which was the advantage I had.
Yeah,
because Walt's sort of 3 steps behind everyone anyway, so I could just lean into that quite happily.
Like a late laugh to their improv.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Brett is one of the, I think, funniest screamers in the world. It's very, very funny when he yells at people.
Right, yes, which he does a bit of in this. Yeah, he's very funny throughout, actually.
The cast is all around is pretty incredible. You have Chris Sullivan from This Is Us, who's really great in it, and Ione Skye, who I don't think I've seen in something in quite some time. It's a really great
She's
cast.
great, and she really nails it. She plays Jennifer's sister in this. And it's a really clever performance, actually, because it could so easily have become a kind of slightly hippie-ish caricature. And Ione does something where she's just slightly not there behind the eyes. It's a brilliant piece of acting, I think.
So when you show up to set, I mean, are all you guys on set pretty much at the same time? Is this one of those things where everyone's just kind of working together, building the episodes?
Pretty much, because it is set. It's set in a sort of closed environment. It's these 4 couples are on a camping trip for a weekend. That's the whole series takes place over 3 days, 4 days, and it's very contained. We were on that camping site set most of the time. And we were all, because if you're not in a scene, you're in the back of the scene on the barbecue, or you're playing with a kid in the background. So it was a sort of little closed community that we would enter every day. We would either be in a scene or sitting around talking about the next scene.
What was the hardest part about playing Walt?
The hardest part, keeping up. I think, sort of just being. It was very exciting to be in that, because we also had a team of writers as well, which I've never done that before. Where you've got writers on set the whole time.
No jokes.
Yeah, so you do a take and they come up and go, you can pitch this idea to you. We've got this line here, or if Kathryn said this, what might you say to that? And you had to. Again, it's just not what I'm used to, but it was thrilling when you felt like you were competing, when you sort of felt like you could keep up with the big boys,
Really? So you have writers on set throwing jokes at you, coming out, giving you alts essentially, so that they can have them in the room.
Yeah.
Does that feel like it's keeping the set fresh and keeping your performance fresh?
Without a doubt, keeping you and you get thrown a line that you then have to sort of suddenly kind of make sense of within the scene, and also just you maybe just they switch a line out halfway through a scene, and so there's a. That's quite exciting. It keeps you fresh. It keeps you challenged.
That's such a strange thing as an actor, like the way that you were describing getting a line and then having to figure out a way to make it feel a certain way for you. I think people forget that sometimes, like, acting is such a physical thing, even if you're just saying a line and you're making yourself comfortable with a line kind of physically. And if someone's throwing you something random, how do you figure that out that quickly?
Yeah, well, but then that can be quite exciting to do. If that's the game, and if people around you are able to do it and fire something back at you, you've kind of got to be on the balls of your feet, and I enjoyed that. It was a really good group. It felt like a safe group. It didn't feel like anyone was sort of trying to be funnier than anyone else. It just felt like everyone really knew their characters, really inhabited their characters, and enjoyed kind of seeing what those characters could do, outside even the kind of printed scenes that we had. So I enjoyed that aspect of it a lot. I was quite scared by it because it's not my, it's not what I do. I learn my lines and turn up and try not to bump into the furniture. So to be a bit more on your mettle it's exciting.
We actually have another clip from the show.
Oh, you do?
Let's take a look at a clip of you probably being scared.
Yeah. See the fear in my eyes.
I can't believe Margaret didn't call me. I'm the person people call, and people come to me. I'm their soft place to fall, their touchstone.
You've been so busy planning this trip. I guess she just wanted to give you the space to do that.
Well, yeah, I've been organizing it because I'm the touchstone.
And by the way, it is wonderful so far. I ate one of those nut and seed bars. That was nice.
Oh, that's bird food. Congratulations, Walt. You ate bird food.
He's such a nice guy.
Yeah, so we ate bird food, that's fine. He's not going to complain. It was tasty.
You're doing such a nice job with the trip, honey. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You also have this other show coming out sometime next year. I think a trailer was released recently. It's you, it's Michael Sheen, it's Neil Gaiman. It's called Good Omens.
That's right.
It's a character, again, that is kind of the opposite of Walt here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he couldn't be more different, really. He plays a demon. Well, he is a demon. I play a demon. He is a demon, yeah. He's lived on Earth as long as human beings have, and he's sort of hell's emissary. He's there to corrupt and tempt and counterbalance Aziraphale, who's the angel, who's been his counterpart on Earth. We first meet them at the Garden of Eden as Adam and Eve disappear off into the distance, and we follow them through history up to the modern day when the apocalypse is due. And by that time, they've gone kind of native and decided that they like life on Earth and they don't really want the apocalypse to happen. So they set out to make sure that it doesn't. So they become a kind of an unlikely double act, trying to counteract the whims of their respective head offices to maintain the Earth as an ongoing concern.
And you get to wear, from what I saw in the trailer, a lot of different costumes throughout the ages.
Well, we do see them throughout the ages, yes. I have sort of fiery red hair because all demons are gingers, as you know.
It's true, guys.
Yes,
it's true.
And of course, that has to adapt to ancient Rome or to Noah's Ark or 60s London or whatever. So yeah, there was a fair amount of dressing up went on in that. But it's just this crazy. It's from the mind of Neil Gaiman, so it's extraordinary and bananas, and its scale is vast, and it takes in all of time and all of space and all of humanity and all of history, and it's funny and it's thrilling and it's very much its own thing. It's very hard to describe. It's a novel that Neil wrote with Terry Pratchett 30 years ago, and Terry Pratchett is no longer with us, but one of his sort of dying requests was that Neil finally get this show on some kind of screen, because they'd been trying to make it for about as long as it had been in existence. So Neil thought, well, Terry's asked me to do this, I've got to see it through. So we filmed the unfilmable novel.
Did it feel unfilmable while you were making it? Were you looking around and be like, how did we get the chance to do this? How did we get this money?
Well, because it's not really. I think Neil had to adapt it himself, because I think anyone else would have tried to rationalize it, would have tried to make sense of it, would have tried to make it into 6 episodes that made sense. And he hasn't done that. He's allowed his imagination pretty free rein, and that's and therefore what you get. It's one of the advantages, I think, in the way that television has gone, and that people like Neil, who have kind of unique voices, are given the resources to sort of let those voices land on screen, and whatever it takes to make that happen, thanks to Amazon, has been allowed to happen.
Now, as a veteran of Doctor Who,
yes.
Big news around Doctor Who this year with...
Really? I haven't heard.
I haven't heard. I'm probably going to bungle this because I don't know much about it.
Okay.
But the first female Doctor Who has come.
Yes.
What did you think about that when you first heard the news?
Well, of course, I've known Jodie for years. We were in Broadchurch together, and so it was more like, Jodie's playing Doctor Who, than, oh, a woman is taking on this important, iconic role. So I can't. I find it difficult to sort of separate the two out, because for me it's just, oh, Jodie, what a great bit of casting and how exciting, and
it's kind of the way that it should feel. I
well,
feel.
yes,
Yeah,
but I also understand there's an element of of something being different here, of there being a kind of political shift. And it was probably time, wasn't it, to do that? I think, the thing that I've always loved about that character, the thing that enchanted me about the Doctor when I was a kid, was that he was the hero that wasn't a muscle man, he didn't win because he was the strongest, he won because he was the cleverest. And I think that was an important role model for me to have as a kid growing up. And that role model should be as accessible to girls as it is to boys. So if this allows that in a way that it didn't before, then fantastic. But it's a whatever else, however way you slice it, it's a great bit of casting, and it's very exciting.
Absolutely. Let's get some questions from our audience. Who's got a question? Right here.
Hi.
Hi.
I was just wondering what you found harder to perform, comedy or drama, and which one did you prefer?
Well, you kind of there's no sort of simple answer to that, because each script will have its own challenges, and each comedy will have bits of drama in it, and each drama will have bits of comedy in it, if either of them are any good. So it's always just about treating each scene as it comes, and some things will take you by surprise at how difficult you find them to sort of make sense of, or to get to the truth of. But that's all you're ever trying to do. You're just trying to find the reality. And reality doesn't necessarily mean naturalism. It can be, the world can be quite heightened, like something like Good Omens the tone of that's quite bananas at times. But within that you have to find what that truth is. And then something like this it's comedy, but it's in a very real world setting. So
I think your job, more so than anybody else in camping, is really underplaying the scenes as much as possible.
I guess so. And maybe that thing can then sometimes become the difficulty, trying not to kind of reach for a comic moment if it breaks the spell of the truthfulness around it, I suppose. But there's no sort of, it's not like drama's more difficult or comedy's more difficult. It's just individual scenes in individual things are throw up different challenges, and it's hard to make a kind of blanket statement, I'd say.
Next question.
Hi, I was wondering, like, in your career, you've done a lot of dark characters, so I was wondering, do you do anything specific to bring that character to life?
Well, are they dark? Are they just misunderstood? I don't know. It depends on the individual circumstances, and I think you're always looking for. You're always trying not to be too defining about anyone's sort of morality, any character's morality. You're just trying to find what makes that individual, what is that character's reality, whatever that might mean. So someone like, for instance, Crowley in Good Omens, he's a demon, but he's not all bad really, and it's finding the shades of grey that bring that character to life, and that's always what you're looking for. So I don't think you don't think, oh, this character's more bad than good, therefore I'll wear my purple pants today, or I'll wear my and by pants I mean underwear. Unless it's Killgrave and Jessica Jones, and then it was also purple pants.
Well, I was going to say, what about Killgrave, where he's not just evil in the sense of the things that he does on screen, but he becomes quite quickly a representation of a kind of cultural evil that is a big part of the conversation right now.
Indeed, and that was one of the masterstrokes that Melissa Rosenberg and her team found.
You keep in your head, or you get out?
But in a way, that's not for me to. Right. I can be aware of that as a human being, but as an actor, you're actually just trying to make sense of who Killgrave is. And the truth is, Killgrave doesn't really understand that a lot of the things he did were as bad as they were. Which again goes back to the conversations that are being had. It's about responsibility. Now, obviously, that was in a world where he had a supernatural power, and he couldn't. Part of his issue was he wasn't able to detect consent from anyone because whenever he asked someone to do something, they did it, and therefore, he couldn't unpick that, which of course then becomes part of a bigger conversation. But for me as the actor, that's not what I can think about. You've got to try and you have to put yourself within the circumstances of someone for whom that is their life. They lose all track of, because everyone acquiesces to everything they do. Because for anyone who hasn't seen it, Killgrave had this, he's a Marvel character, and he had the superpower that whatever he asked someone to do, they did it, whether it was throw a cup of coffee in their face or sleep with them. They just had to do it. And of course, that lent itself to a sort of bigger, it had resonances to conversations that are very important conversations that are happening throughout our society.
Next question.
Hi there.
Hi.
My name is Nettie. I'm
Hi.
a huge fan of everything you do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. As someone who has such a wide palette of acting, like animation, theater, TV, movies, what has proven to be the most challenging as well as your favorite one to do, form of acting?
Favorite form of acting?
Yeah.
Oh, that's very hard. I don't have a simple answer to that because it varies. Like, I suppose I still think of going on stage as my sort of day job, as kind of what I started out doing, and that still feels like a proper job to me, because it feels like there's an element of work to it. You know, there's the rehearsing, and then there's the turning up on stage, and then there's from the moment you start in a performance in the theatre, you're going till you finish. Whereas filming has a different rhythm to it, and so. I suppose some of the hardest moments are before that first performance of a new show. The terror of that, the idea that it's impossible to walk through the door of your dressing room and go on stage in front of hundreds of people and remember a sequence of words. It seems impossible to do. So I suppose the difficulty there is the kind of mind games that you're playing with each other. Whereas with filming, it's about finding the rhythm so that you can hit that, because you only have to do it once. As long as everything's right, as long as the lights are right and the sound has caught it, and you just have to get it right that one time. Whereas if you're repeating something on stage multiple times a week, it's about finding ways to retell a story. So I don't know. I don't really have a simple answer really. Different challenges and different moments are difficult in different jobs. But part of you is always trying to scare yourself, I suppose. So you're kind of looking for the difficult. You're looking for the bit that you're going to go, oh, I don't know what happens next. I'm scared now, and that's interesting in itself. That one has a compulsion to chase that. I don't know what that says about an actor's psychology. Something very unhealthy, I think. But I do subscribe to that unhealthiness, definitely.
Next question.
Hi.
Hi.
I just want to know. I know you sort of touch up on this, but do you prefer playing like roles that are specifically villains, or do you prefer to play roles that are specifically more chilled, or do you just rather have it like switched up?
Yeah, I'm quite. By the way, I love your hat. Do you have horns?
Thank you.
Yeah, nice.
Thank you.
I'm quite greedy for the variety. That's the truth of it. The fact that I get to do someone like Walt, and then immediately before that I was playing a demon from hell. That's the sweet spot for me, really. If I can keep doing, if each thing can feel different to the one before, and I can find a new sort of version of myself in a new character, that's. I think I'm quite old-fashioned. I think because I grew up with a sort of classical theatre training, and the sort of the tradition of your Laurence Olivier's and so on, who felt the need to transform in every role that they did, to be completely different, to be unrecognisable. There's part of me thinks that's me doing my acting. That's me doing my acting when I do that. If I'm different to what I was before, I don't know that that's always true. And I think actually, you're sometimes more successful when you kind of just nail down the kind of the truth within yourself, really, probably. But I like that. I like the variety. I like the idea of transforming yourself, yeah.
You're also in the upcoming Mary Queen of Scots.
I am.
True? Yes.
I am.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
I play John Knox.
Looks incredible.
There's a lot of beard work. Much beard work. Camping was the hat. Mary Queen of Scots was the beard. I'm only...
That's all acting is, really, isn't it? Showing
finding
up and
a
like,
thing and
can I
shoving
get
it
a
on your
hat for
head.
This? Can I get a beard for this? Thank you. He's of course the puritanical Scottish preacher who gave Mary Queen of Scots such a very hard time and helped to lead the rebellion against her. So it's a small but pivotal role in the film. Yes, I basically sort of turn up and get angry with Saoirse Ronan. Oh, how is it playing along against her?
Oh, great! I mean, she's she plays Mary Queen of Scots, who's this sort of, and she's this sort of rather willowy kind of little girl lost, and then she stands up and kind of takes control of her room. It's a great performance of a fantastic character. Yeah.
One more.
Hi, sorry. Okay.
Oh, that's okay.
So you've played everything, basically. You've played, things we watch in school and things that, we watch for fun. But I just had a specific...
Some fun stuff and some boring stuff.
No,
yeah.
Even Shakespeare you made interesting.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're welcome. But I had a question specifically about this role versus maybe your role as the Doctor.
Uh-huh.
And you talked about how different they were, but is there any similarities you have between the two, or anything you bring specifically between the two with yourself?
Well, despite the hat, they both look a bit like me. I'm sure there are similarities, but it's almost difficult for me to pick them out. Do you know what I mean? Because it's easier for someone else to be objective about that, probably. Because in my head, they're completely different, and I transform myself chameleon-like from role to role and never do the same note twice, which of course isn't true because they're all filtered through, whatever I've got.
You could also, never do anything again if you were thinking about the last thing that you did while you were doing it. Isn't that the thing for actors is always just try to let everything go?
Exactly. You want to be as relaxed as possible, which probably means not going, oh, I said that line a bit like I said something in 2004. Episode 3 of whatever it was. So, yeah.
Imagine saying that to a director. Can we go again?
I'm so sorry. Yes. There was an episode of DuckTales 3 years ago that line just sounded a little similar. One more. So sorry, what was the question?
I was just asking if you saw any similarities, or if it's just the way that you act, you try and transform, or you try to bring something, similar.
I'm not aware of the similarities. I'm aware that there will be some because, it's just me. But I don't, there's nothing, I can't think what's similar about Walt and the Doctor. They both wear glasses occasionally, and they're both really sweet. They're both really... Walt's probably a lot sweeter than the Doctor. The Doctor can be a bit of a pill at times, but Walt's just a nice guy. Until we get to episode 8.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Walt's breaking point after having watched 4 episodes.
Thank you.
David, I love having you here. Thanks for stopping by.
Always a pleasure. Thanks
Camping
for having
is
me.
going to be on HBO this weekend at 10 p.m. David Tennant, everybody.
Hi-oh, hi-oh.